Good morning, everyone. Just to make sure that everyone gets a seat that would like a seat, can we have everybody kind of scrunch to the middle? I know there's a couple seats and everyone kind of counts today. We are so excited to have you here and to celebrate 1 Million Cups 1 year, first year birthday. Thank you very much for being here and for celebrating with us. We're trying to make it an exciting day because this is really big for our community, and that'll play out as we have our speakers and presenters presenting today. It's my pleasure to introduce Tom McDonald. He's our CEO here at the Kauffman Foundation, and he's going to get our morning kicked off right. We're so excited to have him be here, and he's been coming to 1 Million Cups every time that he can. It's just been so great to have him here with us. So he's going to kick us off this morning. Everybody give a big hand for Tom.
Well, good morning, and I think as you all know, 1 Million Cups is branded that way because the sense is a lot of business activities, a lot of startups and so forth start off with a coffee shop conversation. And so the idea is if we could get 1 million cups over a period of time, we're going to see a lot of new firms formed, a lot of startup businesses go. But I think as important as that, because I notice this at every one of these events I come to, we're creating the opportunity for a great set of networks here in Kansas City, where many of you have faced some of the same challenges in starting your business. How do I find distribution in a particular channel? How do I get my tea on the shelf at Cosentino's? How do I get an occupancy permit? How do I hook my online or my smartphone application into several different channels or areas of distribution? So we really think if we get to that 1 million cups, and basically doing sort of a quick calculation, I think we've had, this is right around our 40th. It's a 1 year, but we lost a day because of snow and we lost a few days because of the holidays. So if we've been averaging 200 people per, then we're up around 8,000 total attendees. So I'm assuming if you've all had 2 cups per, then we're at 1.6% of our goal just from this group alone. So I'll have somebody check that math a little later. I tend to do that a little bit off the cuff. But 1 Million Cups is a Kauffman program, and it's important that it's a Kauffman program because Mr. Kauffman, of course, built his company here into an extremely successful company, gave this city many legacies, whether it's the Royals, but particularly this foundation that continues to find ways to try and create entrepreneurial activities, to look at policy that supports entrepreneurs, and to do things like this, which is a great invention, to create those networks. And by the way, we're in 6 cities now, and we hope to be in 20 by year end. And I'm going to mention a lot of this stuff. Sort of sometimes you look at things a little bit jaundiced. A few weeks ago we had a forum here that Mayor James was nice enough to kick off, and then I followed him, and he took all my material. So anything that I'm saying here, I may be taking a little material from Tom Rue or others. And if you notice on the program, part of his is the next kind of what do we do next, and it's let's get caffeinated, and I've already contributed 3 of Danny O'Neill's cups to my caffeinated quotient for the day, so we're headed in the right direction. But it was very important to Mr. Kauffman 2 things: that things focused on starting in Kansas City, but that hopefully we could take those things that we developed as a test bed here, and that we could take them to a broader market to help education and to help entrepreneurs. I think this program is particularly relevant to it. Started here, we can see the enthusiasm, we feel it every week, great group, and I think it's accomplishing everything and more than we wanted. And when we get to 20 cities, we won't stop there, we'll go beyond. But that's enough for me. We have a video that talks about the highlights of the first year of 1 Million Cups. It's going to be right up here to my left in a moment, so enjoy the video, continue the networking. We got a great program today. We got some alumni returning, so thank you again for coming, and we'll be here every week from 9 to 10. So take care.
The success of this program is really based on the ongoing education of entrepreneurs, building community, and creating really great companies.
It's a simple concept. Get a bunch of eager people together to express their dreams.
It's just about real people standing up and talking about what they're working on.
The room was completely packed. Coffee ran the whole time.
They're packing the house at 9 o'clock on a business day.
The idea of bringing entrepreneurs and folks together that have great ideas really can make those ideas grow into something better.
And so it really allows everybody to move forward faster.
It's a room full of 200 plus entrepreneurs and has become the quintessential entrepreneurial event for Kansas City.
There are a lot of classes that you can take about how to do specific things in a startup, but to see somebody actually go through those steps is a real live experiential learning opportunity.
Seeing someone think through their plan and kind of present their ideas, and then having the audience feedback, point out, have you thought about that? That process, kind of seeing someone else illuminate their own gaps or bridges, can be beneficial to those of us who are here, because then we learn from what they're doing right or wrong.
You can hear somebody's experience from the front of the room and then connect with them afterwards so that you can hear, when rubber hits the road, what does this actually look like?
How many of you, this is your first time attending?
Coming to 1 Million Cups has been a catalyst to connect with the community.
You get to hear about new ideas in Kansas City and new entrepreneurs in Kansas City, and then you also get to hear about the heart behind their business.
There's so much energy on any given day that you can get charged up. You can feel like you're a part of something else, rather than feeling like you're alone or the only person starting something.
The philosophy of being all on the same team and helping each other out was always there. I think that's what's really propelled it to success.
That's a question that comes up really often, is what could I do to help you? It's not just about finding out all your good things. It's like, what's getting in your way? What do you really need?
There's this common bond of entrepreneurship that's happening right now in Kansas City, where this is how we build something. You have to get involved. And this is a great gathering point for that.
It's so cool to see the room getting more and more full every week.
It just started as a really simple way of getting people together.
I actually started coming about a year ago.
We were actually the first company to present.
I'd say about 25, 30 people in the audience.
When Nate was still dragging people in from the Kaufman staff and cafeteria.
Then we realized that we were actually tapping into something that was much greater.
Everybody was excited that there were 100 people at a 1 Million Cups.
145, that's awesome.
So there's 180 people here.
261, boy, who would have thought when we started with 12?
We're gonna run out of space is what's gonna happen.
1 Million Cups is a program of entrepreneurs leading other entrepreneurs. And that is the coolest thing. These guys have companies, they run them day in and day out and still give back to make sure that this thing happens.
We just launched Des Moines last week.
St. Louis next week.
We're expanding 1 Million Cups as quickly as humanly possible right now.
It's a boon to Kansas City, but it's spreading really quickly to everywhere else.
We're currently in 6 cities and we're growing our way to 20.
They've established a unique culture, and that culture has grown, and people are buying into that culture, which is what you want of any startup.
And knowing that we're really helping build community to help entrepreneurs, that's super gratifying.
1 Million Cups changed the game.
1 Million Cups is the cornerstone of the entrepreneurial community in Kansas City.
I think a lot of people are anxious to hear the story. How many people throughout the world are interested in what's happening in Kansas City? I mean, how often does that happen?
People are so, flabbergasted when they hear, oh, this program came out of Kansas City, and I say, heck yeah, it did.
Happy anniversary, 1 Million Cups.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Congratulations on your success.
We're looking forward to the future.
Hope it continues to grow in startup fashion.
We'll see you guys all next week. Thanks.
That's a little overwhelming to see that. I think I'm kind of at loss for words, which is kind of hard for me because I talk a lot. This entire experience for me personally and professionally has been quite profound. I can remember just over a year ago, I graduated from college and didn't know what the heck I was going to do with my life. And just to be offered this opportunity to work with amazing people and to create something that's grown to be so much larger than myself has been amazing. So a lot of my time is going to be thanking a lot of people. You know, 1 Million Cups really started with the hypothesis that if we could get Kansas City's entrepreneurs to drink 1 million cups of coffee, then we could fundamentally change the culture of entrepreneurship in this city. And we thought originally, I think we only knew like 5 startups at the time, and we thought either we're going to find more companies and we're going to do this thing, or it's going to be a really short-lived program. And here we are. So that's been really cool. I guess it's not really, I woke up at 4:30 this morning and wrote some stuff. That's not really my style. I just kind of wing it. So I want to talk about where the programs come, some of our milestones, and where I see us heading. I actually have some more accurate information in terms of our attendance and kind of how big this movement has grown. I'm really, really proud to say that over our first year in Kansas City, we've showcased 93 startups. Who knew? Who knew that Kansas City... Who knew that Kansas City had 93 startups? You can see the list of them in your I don't want to call it a bulletin because we're not a church, but in your program. But you can see that there's companies that actually aren't on that list that have presented because they failed out, I guess, before they even started. And that's part of our process, and that's something that we're going to be looking at in the future is how do we talk about failing forward, and that if you can salvage anything, there really was no failure, and that we can bake that into our culture here in Kansas City. So I'm excited about that. But some other key milestones. So we've done 93 startups in Kansas City. Our total attendance for the year has been just over 6,000 people. So that's been amazing. We're in 5 other cities. So St. Louis, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Reno, and Houston. And those have started just this year, and we're expanding, as Tom said, as quickly as possible, hopefully to 14 cities as the year goes on. Right now, our weekly total attendance across all of our cities is between 420 and 450 entrepreneurs. So that's extremely exciting. As you can see in the video, they're meeting in coffee shops. St. Louis meets at the PBS station in Midtown. And in Cedar Rapids, they're in a co-working space. And that's been a really cool model because after 1 Million Cups is done, they have open co-work until lunch, which has been very exciting. Some other interesting statistics. How many of you are here for the first time? Okay, that's about, wow. Welcome. This is a great first day to come. It's been exciting because more than half of our attendees come twice a month to 1 Million Cups, which has been exciting. That means there's a stickiness factor here, that we're on to something, that you really feel like you're part of a community, that you need to be there. So anyway, this idea, where are we going? If we can get to 20 cities by the end of the year, in 2014, we can showcase just short of 2,000 startups across the country in a real-time feed in our new website, which actually is going to launch later today. So check that out. That's pretty exciting. Check out 1millioncups.com. The idea of that is you can't help people if you don't know where they are and what they're doing. And that's what we've seen here, is in terms of a program, this is one of the simplest things you could do. Get together, share a cup of coffee, share what you're going through. But as you'll hear from these stories, that spending 6 minutes on the stage telling your story, taking 20 minutes of Q&A is just a launching point, and it's changing their trajectory of their startup because the community now knows, and that's really what's happening. So what can we do if we have 20 communities? What can we do to link all of these entrepreneurs together? And with all of the technology that we have in our uber-connected society, we're going to try and connect all of our communities together. When I'm excited, one aspect of the program that's going to launch later this summer is our Passport program, which is to say if you've presented twice in your home community, you can go anywhere else in the network and present to other communities. So when you talk about really growing companies, how would an entrepreneur in Kansas City get connected with the St. Louis entrepreneurship community that's going to be willing to help you grow your business there? Well, we want that to be 1 million cups. We want that to be that vehicle. So those are some of the things coming down the pipe. We're going to be growing in our cities. We're going to be connecting entrepreneurs together. We're going to be showcasing them live on our site, videotaping all of them, creating company profiles, and you'll see that on our website. Finally, I owe a lot of big thank yous. I'd like to give, hold your round of applause, I guess, to the end, but to Matt Long in the back and Amanda Schneiders, flipping the keys back there. They run our live stream. They're always there. They don't get enough credit for all the work that they do, but I'd really like to thank them. To Dave Semro, he does all of our AV and mics, and he's saved us quite a few times. To Prentice Earl, the guy behind the lens over here, he's my boy. He captures, well, I wouldn't have any pictures of myself if it wasn't for him. So, but he's really captured some of the most heartfelt interactions between you guys, and it's been really cool to have that. To Jennifer Carnes for setting up chairs, breaking it down. She has awesome handwriting. I really appreciate that about her because no one can write, and just writing on the board, that's been awesome, and for listening. She's been great just listening. To my entire entrepreneurship team for being a great work family. To Tom, my boss, who you'll hear from later, just for the freedom to create and for the opportunity and the guidance along the way. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our community leaders nationally. We have 14 awesome entrepreneurs leading this effort around the country, and the community leaders are going to continue to grow. We don't pay them anything. That's the amazing part, is they just want to do something to grow their community and see that others succeed, and this is their way of giving back. So to Zachary Draper and Jigar Patel out in Reno, to Chris Fassler in Cedar Rapids, to Brad Bach, Kaylee Williams, and Aaron Hoffman in Des Moines, to Anthony Covington and Robert De Los Santos in Houston, and to Francis Schemler and Jim Brasunas in St. Louis. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Mike, John, George, and Melissa, our local community leaders. Let's give them a big round of applause. They deserve it. I know when I asked Mike, John, and George to lunch to see if they wanted to be my community leaders, I thought it would be an easy win. And then they grilled me for like 2 hours about what does this entail and all this stuff, and then they all hopped on board, and they've been the best group of leaders to work with. Special thanks to Melissa up here, who does all of our social media and content creation. Everything, if you're interacting with us at 1 Million Cups, she's our gal. She does all of our Facebook. She's just amazing and selfless. Thank you to a bajillion other folks. That's what I wrote. Thank you to a bajillion other folks. And finally, I guess I'll get on with it. I have one last thank you, a very special thank you and this will be an introduction to my office mate and good friend and colleague, Cameron Cushman. Folks, he's changing Kansas City. He runs our entire Kansas City portfolio, and he's just an amazing individual who's always thinking, what if we did this? How can we do this? I mean, he got a bus together and took 40 entrepreneurs to South by Southwest. I mean, that's incredible. He's running hackathons, and he's just one of the most dynamic people I've ever worked with. And I wrote this introduction at 4:30. So, introducing the king of the cheesy joke, the master of the beard, and probably one of the all-around greatest guys I've ever met, Cameron Cushman.
Wow, that might be the best introduction I've ever gotten ever. I should just quit and go home. That was amazing. Thanks, Nate. You know, as you were up here talking, I was kind of replaying the whole scenario in my head, which is really a year of this program, which in some sense is still just kind of incredible and amazing that we're at a year. This whole thing started when Nate and I still worked in research and policy. I was still flying back and forth to Washington, D.C., talking to policymakers all the time about how important entrepreneurship was. And Nate, you'd been hired about a month or two? Like a week. And so the conversation went something like this. We said, you know, Nate, well, and at this time we had just found out that we were going to be moving into entrepreneurship and we're going to be focusing exclusively on Kansas City and how can we build the Kansas City entrepreneurial ecosystem. Thanks to Tom for the opportunity to jump to the other side of the house and make this happen. So we said, well, Nate, how many startups could you name in Kansas City? We count them on one, maybe two hands. And I was about the same. And that was really scary. If you're going to be working on building the Kansas City entrepreneurship ecosystem and I can't name more than 10 startups, that's a real problem. So we started saying, well, what if we could just start a program and bring in startups to present to us? And by us, we really just meant the entrepreneurship team and anybody else in the foundation who might be interested. You know, the people who do legal work and the people who do administrative work, and let's just open it up. You know, they don't get to see the startups that operate in their own backyard, and this is going to be our new gig, so let's go make it happen. And so as you've heard a couple times, we opened it up, we started it. Big thanks to Bob Lighton, our former VP of Research and Policy, to allow us to kind of do this crazy program. And we had 12 people show up, and they were all foundation folks. Mike Farmer from RareWire, Kirk Hazendahl from RareWire, and Mike Farmer from Leap 2 were our first two presenters, two awesome startups. And we started with 12 people, and then it just consistently grew and grew and grew. And I was still kind of transitioning into the new gig, and I talked to Nate, and I said, you know, Nate, run this thing, man. It looks like we've got something here. It looks like we're onto something. We've kind of tapped into an untapped demand that Kansas City seems to want. The entrepreneurs are very interested in this, and they keep showing up. We literally had this like hockey stick growth. I always wonder if it's kind of similar to what you entrepreneurs go through, where you're like, oh, you know, what if we did it this way? What if we kind of tweaked it and had this part of it happen? What if we took this idea and actually acted on it? And Nate, I can't thank you enough, man. You have done an awesome job just like scaling this thing, running it, building the website, doing all the day-to-day stuff that has really made this thing extremely powerful and extremely worthwhile for the community. At least I hope you think it's worthwhile. But there's a larger picture here. When we first started, I remember several discussions over the summer after we would go in a couple months. Nate, what if we run out of startups? What if we can't find enough startups in Kansas City to keep this thing going every week? Because I think a lot of the magic here is that every Wednesday at 9 a.m., you know you're going to hear from two local startups in the story. So when I'm out talking to people in the community, they say, oh, well, I can't make it next week. I'm out of town. I say, I don't care. I don't care when you can make it. I don't care if it's 6 or 8 weeks or 3 months away. Come at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. We'll be here. And there'll be two local startups. And in the early days, I was a little bit of blowing smoke because I wasn't sure that we could actually provide two local startups every week. But the community has stepped up. And as Nate's gone out, we've all kind of networked as a team and kind of figured out who these startups are. 93 startups. That is unbelievable. And I think it's unearthed this this feeling that maybe we can really be America's most entrepreneurial city. Maybe there is something going on here in the Silicon Prairie. Maybe there is this idea that startups and good ideas can happen anywhere, and that entrepreneurship can really be democratized, and that it's not just about the coast, it's not just about Silicon Valley, New York, and Austin, and these other places that are always thrown out as these startup hubs, that startups can really happen anywhere. And these are great companies. I learn so much every week from hearing the startups. Even though I know the guys, I meet them, I learn something in every one of the pitches, and I hope that you do too. But Nate mentioned, the South by Southwest bus. There's a larger picture here that we're trying to build a community. We're trying to build a network of folks who are all here to help each other out. There's been a couple of, cultural things that have happened at 1 Million Cups that we didn't plan, we didn't anticipate, it just kind of happened. One is this announcements thing, right? We have people competing to get up on stage and announce their event, announce their competition, announce, that their startup is launching a Kickstarter round or whatever that might be. That wasn't anticipated. We were just trying to highlight local startups, but everybody has seen this as a convening and a coalescing event for the entrepreneurship community every week. And people don't miss it. People keep coming back. The other thing that I think it's done is really provided a way for us all to figure out who the startups are in our community and then figure out how to help them. Nate and I always say, if you don't know who they are, you can't help them. And that's what I think has been the biggest thing, where every presentation has gotten some form of the question, what can we, the community, do to help you? And I think that has been so tremendous. Because if we are going to compete with these, the giants, the other startup ecosystems around the country and around the world, we got to help each other. We've got to all be in the same boat together. So just to give you a little bit of sense of some of the other stuff that's going on out there, we did take this bus to South by. It was maybe the stupidest idea I've ever had, but it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. But I think the most important part of it was it took 40 entrepreneurs from St. Louis and Kansas City to Austin to really talk about what was going on here in Kansas City. I had no less than 5 people tell me every day, oh my gosh, Kansas City, I hear there's a great tech scene there. I hear there's a great startup scene. What are you guys doing? Tell me about Google Fiber. Tell me about the KC Startup Village. Tell me what's going on in Kansas City. So the buzz is out there about what we have going on here. And I think that was the biggest fruit of our trip down to South by, was just taking a bunch of entrepreneurs and participating. Watching Tim Sylvester give his pitch on how you print a 3D space elevator. Why not? These ideas are actually happening here in Kansas City. So I do think we're onto something here, and 1 Million Cups, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg. And as we're talking about launching in 20 cities and taking this particular program to the rest of the country, let's keep building KC. Let's keep this program going. Let's launch new programs. Let's help each other out in new ways, and really take these startups these 93 startups that we all know and love and are trying to figure out ways to help. And let's have them be the next big success stories. Let's start having some big exits, having these guys end up in tech blogs and the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and places like that. I was listening to the radio on the way home yesterday about the Google Fiber announcement in Austin. And the reporter actually said something when we just asked the question, so why did Google Fiber go to Austin? And he said, well, it's because they have a great entrepreneurship and tech scene there. I want that to be said about Kansas City. I don't want to have to explain that anymore. I want us to be in that narrative of the next big entrepreneurial hotspot. And when we talk about the growth of 1 Million Cups, we talk about all of the startups that are represented here today, we talk about becoming America's most entrepreneurial city. That, I think, is how we're going to know that we've made it, when we are identified as the next big entrepreneurial hotspot. And I think we're well on our way. So Nate did a ton of thanks. I can't thank you guys enough. This would be nothing without the community. This would be nothing without all of you guys showing up. Our community leaders have done a fantastic job. I love the fact that Nate and I were able to, as the feeders in the community, not entrepreneurs ourselves, we're able to find entrepreneurs to really take this thing and lead it. We couldn't have done it without you guys. To all the Kaufman staff who put up with us every week and the crazy last-minute changes that we make, thank you. And it's been a fantastic year. So with that, let's get to the real focus of 1 Million Cups, which is startups. It's not us. Let's hear from some Kansas City startups. And they're going to give us just quick updates on what they've been up to in their 1 year since this thing was launched. So I don't know, who's up first? I'll turn it over to Mike. He is going to tell us what's next. So thank you again for coming. Happy birthday, 1 Million Cups. Thank you again for your support. And hey, this time next year, it's going to be exciting to see the growth that's going to continue to happen. Thank you.
This is definitely the best morning ever for 1 Million Cups. This has just been fantastic. Loving this. So yeah, as Cameron said, next up we're going to have some updates. I mean, one of the really cool things about being one of the volunteers here is week in, week out, talking to the entrepreneurs, talking to our alums, and kind of seeing what their progress is since the time they've presented. So we wanted to share that with you as well. So what we have here next are nine of last year's presenters, no particular order. We just thought it would be fun to have them up here and give a brief update. So no 20-minute Q&A. This is just a short few minutes to let them know what they've been up to, or let you know what they've been up to. So first up is something that I think all of us are familiar with, a really, really exciting movement that has happened here in Kansas City, result of Google Fiber and people coming together. It's really, really been awesome. The first presenter here was September 12th, 2012, was actually Ben Barrett representing Homes for Hackers. And that became kind of an interesting story. At the time, Ben had just come up with his idea 2 weeks before about renting out some space or giving some space in his home to other hackers to just build stuff, which is like, how beautiful is that? That's an amazing idea. Well, at the same time, Matthew Marcus had a home up the street and kind of working out with the same sort of idea with Leap2 and some other startups in the area. So finally, those three kind of came together, Matthew Marcus, Adam Arredondo, and Ben Barrett. Ben can't be here today, but we do have Adam and Matthew up here to talk about KCSV. So welcome on up.
All right. Thanks for having us. First of all, awesome on 1 Million Cups. It's so exciting to be a part of this community. And it's a family, right? Like listening to Nate speak, I swore you were gonna get emotional. We're waiting for the tears to flow. But that's what it is. I mean, this is a family. I'm personally excited about all the people that I've gotten to meet through 1 Million Cups. And it's about community. And so, yeah, how does Kansas City Startup Village tie into that, right? So who here knows about the village, I guess, or who's heard about it? Okay, so a lot of you. So it started very organically. Essentially, we wanted to, as Cameron said, well, go ahead, you take it, brother.
Well, I mean, what we found, I don't know how many of you know the actual story, but Kansas City Startup Village was not planned in any way. Back in the last week of September, a number of very serendipitous events happened to where 3 startup properties came to be within half a block of each other in the first neighborhood in the world to get Google Fiber without 1 ounce of planning. And I think that's what kind of spoke to all of us that were in one of those 3 buildings, be like, we got to take advantage of this huge opportunity and the spotlight that Google Fiber has kind of given us. Kansas City has a huge opportunity, and a lot of other people have talked about it. So that is what kind of KCSV grew out of, and that when we first started, the real motive was, there's 3 buildings, let's see if we can get 20. And that was really the only motive, was let's get people close together. As with 1 Million Cups, the original goal was just to kind of help Kaufman employees and Nate figure out what other startups are in Kansas City, and it's grown into so much more, and so has KCSV. So we now have, fairly organized, and we kind of have 3 broad objectives. And I kind of want to talk about each of those objectives, and we've made huge strides on each of those. The first one is just to raise awareness and conversation about what's happening in Kansas City in startup and technology. And we've made just huge strides. I mean, different members of KCSV and just the startup community have been able to talk to young people, KU, UMKC, CAPS. And one of the things for us, and we talk about this a lot, growing up in Kansas City, entrepreneurship isn't in the conversation. Neither one of us remember talking about entrepreneurship even through high school, and that's a problem. And I think now we have that opportunity to raise that conversation. It's on all of us to talk to young people and kind of start grooming that next wave of entrepreneurs that don't even think about entrepreneurship, because Kansas City, lots of times success in the minds of young people is working for big corporations. And most people that's a great path, but for those of us that have that more risk-taking edge, we need to talk to them early and let them know that there's a community here. And so it's been really exciting to be a part of that. We've also had the opportunity to talk to many civic organizations through KCSV. I mean, we had a great meeting with the EDC, the ADC, KCCVA, mayors. It's been amazing. So that would, kind of been, with Google Fiber and with 1 Million Cups as kind of that backbone, it's been amazing. And then the corporate support is building, and it would not have happened with all the stuff that's happened with the kind of congealing of the startup community and with Sprint and what Kevin McGinnis is doing and Cerner and DST and all those guys. We've had Hallmark. Rob at Hallmark is a total rock star. It's exciting to see where we can go. So next part, one of our other objectives was changing that national perception of Kansas City. And Marcus can kind of talk to some of the things we've done to bring the spotlight and highlight what we can do here.
Yeah, so I mean, our vision is to help make Kansas City a premier startup city in America. And of course, Google Fiber, great friend of the Startup Village, has helped propel us into the national and international spotlight. So the press has been amazing. We constantly get contacted by, people from around the country, big media outlets, and international as well. And so that's really exciting. What was the other term?
Foreign delegates.
Yeah, oh yeah, so we've had a lot of visits actually from people around the world. We've had delegates from Russia, from Japan, from Turkey, from Pakistan. So it's pretty exciting when you get a call saying, hey, these people want to come through and see what you guys are up to. When you're just kind of hunkered in your house doing your startup thing, and all of a sudden you got, translators telling you what's going, explaining what's going on.
We've gotten really good at talking about KCSV through a translator. Really.
So that's really exciting stuff. What's that? Yeah. So people are contacting us all the time. They're interested in what's happening in the village and how they can get involved and move there. So we constantly, probably 2-3 times a week, get startups from around the country, even international, saying, hey, this is how big we are. This is our budget. This, we want to move there. We want Google Fiber. And I mean, that's exciting, and.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's a number of people I can name that have moved here. I mean, I know we have Phil who moved here from St. Louis, and the Homes for Hackers program has been amazing. I don't know if any of the handprint people are here, but Mike D was the first hacker that came here because of Ben's program. And we definitely made a good impression that he moved his 4-person team here from Boston to Kansas City. And that's just testament to the impact that this community can have on people. We're still changing that national perception, but it's all of you guys that when people come to 1 Million Cups, you can't help but get pumped about what's happening in Kansas City. And it's really exciting to be in the middle of it, and we definitely want to keep that going. So our last objective and kind of call to action, the biggest thing that we want to do as well is to unify the Kansas City startup community. And I think KCSV and 1 Million Cups are two of the things that really just bring people together. It's all volunteers with KCSV. None of us have any financial motivation outside of uniting the startup community as a whole. And so the question that's normally asked is, how can you guys help us? But it's not about helping us. It's not about helping Marcus or I or any of the other people that are in it in the day-to-day. It's about helping us. You need to help all of us. You need to help you. What we're building is something that benefits the whole community, as 1 Million Cups does. There's not selfish motivations behind 1 Million Cups. You use the word selfless, and I think that's great. All the people that are part of Kansas City Startup Village are all volunteering their time because they're passionate about entrepreneurship, passionate about Kansas City, and passionate about building this community and showing the world that Kansas City can be an innovative city, be a hub, and attract some of the most talented people in the world to come here and innovate and build the next generation of products and services and companies. So that's really exciting to see. And
just some specifics, like there's office space available. If any startups are looking to relocate, we've had Pipeline moved over recently. We've got 20+ startups over there. So, let us know, reach out to Adam or myself or the contact form, and we can help you out there. And we do plan to have a grand opening party. The village kind of formed late last year, and we wanted to wait till it was warmer. So sometime, in May probably, we'll have a party, and you guys can all come see and tour around and see the startups if you haven't already. And anything else? Okay, finally, one last thing. So everyone know Eddie Delahunt's Cafe? Raise your hand if you've been there. Okay, it's for sale. He's selling it, I know, crazy. So if someone wants to buy it and keep the opening hours beyond 2 p.m., that would be awesome. That would be really good.
So so anyways, we're definitely getting this thing fired up again. Our goal, we want to get startups moving to Kansas City. We've kind of established ourselves, we've organized ourselves. Now we need to get people to move here. So we got a meeting at 10:30 after 1 Million Cups every Wednesday. Come to it, get engaged. Let's take this thing to the next level.
Great job. I want to get a real quick hand. I know we only have, 9 people presenting this week. If you've presented before, just raise your hand. Let's give them a round of applause. That's awesome. Okay, so I love watching this. This is so exciting. Everybody's talking about what's happening here. So up next, back in January of this year, actually, we had the opportunity for Tyler Beckett to come up and tell us that tea is not about being on a mountaintop doing yoga. And I love the idea, the fact that 1 Million Cups doesn't say necessarily 1 million cups of coffee, right? And so I love this idea that it could be coffee, tea, or other things. Or other things, I don't know what other things would be. So anyways, I want to give a warm welcome for Tyler Beckett. Thanks, guys.
Okay, it is a pleasure to be here again, and so soon after I just presented. For those of you who don't know or who weren't here last time, because I think when Nate asked for that show of hands, a large portion of us weren't here last time to actually hear my first pitch, I can be brief about it, and that is that I have this crazy passion for tea, and moreover that I felt like Kansas City needed a tea company, because we have 12 or 14, I think on my last count, coffee roasters in town. And yet, so all the coffee at all the coffee shops we get from local coffee roasters, and everyone loves it. But all the tea that we get at coffee shops or cafes here in town comes from obscure companies or not branded at all, and it's in these awful containers somewhere under the counter, under the shelf. And if you want tea, you have to ask for a list. No one should ever have a tea list because that necessarily means that tea is confusing or that it's obscure and that it's just wrong. So I wanted to bring a tea culture to Kansas City, share with Kansas City why I love tea so much. And I think Kansas City is a great place to do it, not only because I'm from here, but also because Kansas City has such a local pride. You know, the bread at every shop is local bread. The coffee at every shop is local coffee. The sweets are local sweets. So why shouldn't the tea also be from a tea company who imports tea direct from origin here to Kansas City, blends it, packs it, flavors it, right down the crossroads, and then gives it to the great cafes we have in town. So that's Hugo Tea Company. The update, you know, I guess I'm here to give an update of where we've gone since January. You might not think that much has happened since I presented 2 months ago, but actually I can be rather quick about it. Since Million Cups, everything doubled. Our wholesale accounts doubled, thanks in large part to Balls. So, thank you. We are actually, by the end of the summer, we're expecting to be in virtually every grocery store in Kansas City. So that's all the Balls, all the Hen Houses, all the Price Choppers. So thanks to Cosentino's, thanks to Balls, and all the other great local chains we have here. And we also doubled, so that's the wholesale accounts. We doubled online sales immediately after Million Cups, and it basically stayed there. We doubled cafe accounts. So as it turns out, there are a lot of tea drinkers in Kansas City, and there's a lot of passion for it, and it's as if someone was just waiting for someone to bring good tea to Kansas City. But what I really want to say, so that's the update. What I really want to do is, I was trying to think of what to actually talk about other than just say, hey, I doubled everything. But the reason that we doubled is because of Million Cups. And it's already been said, and everyone's thanked everyone else. But the truth is, this is the Million Cups 1-year anniversary, and it's not really about Hugo Tea. I mean, I've already had my chance to speak. What it's really about is what Million Cups has done for me and what Million Cups has done for everyone. So I cannot thank enough the community leaders, I don't know why you have to have a list of names. That's the one thing you can't remember when you're presenting. John, George, Melissa, Mike, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, it takes so much of your time, and you're here, and it's made such a difference in my life and for the business that I truly cannot thank you enough. I am so very grateful. But specifically, I have to thank Nate. I think everyone has actually had a round of applause here except for Nate, because he was giving the round of applauses out. So can we please thank Nate for everything he's done. I was lucky that Nate invited me to Million Cups, and I was lucky that when I sat down with him to talk about my business, Nate has spent time in China, and he just happened to have kind of this closet passion for tea. And so Nate personally has kind of nudged Hugo Tea along where possible, and that's the reason I'm here talking to people. That's the reason our wholesale accounts have doubled, all because of my connection with Nate and what he's been able to do with Million Cups in this community. So thank you, everyone. Last, before I get off stage, I do want to tell you about the tea that's here today. I'm sure it's already gone. It's Full Steam Black Tea. It's 100% organic. It's actually an experimental blend that I blended yesterday and then brought up here to Chef today to brew. So no one's ever had this before, and I don't know if we'll proceed with it and use it. We're testing different variations. It's actually 5 different teas from every far-flung place all around the globe. Really super high-quality tea. I hope you enjoy it. So thank you so much. I am so grateful for Million Cups and everything you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, we are out of your tea because it is delicious. All right, next up we have the guys from Trelli, but a little bit of history. They presented back in September, which I know we've talked about the community leaders a little bit and how Nate brought us into the team in that meeting where we grilled them and kind of got going. But that was actually last September, October-ish. And so this was one of the first presentations that actually started going when the community leaders were able to start getting involved in the community. So as a community leader, I want to say thank you very much for all of your support and everything that you've done. And it really has been an honor and a pleasure to be able to do this. So a little bit about Trelli and what they've been able to do. Up will be Claude Aldridge and Jason Reed. And so since they've presented at 1 Million Cups, they've launched and completed a successful Kickstarter project. They also have their Alpha product coming that's been in manufacturing. So I think they have one of those with them today if you want to take a look at it. But without any further ado, let's have them come up here and tell their story and give them a big round of applause.
Well, thank you for having us. My name is Claude Aldridge. This is my co-founder, Jason Reed. We founded Trelli beginning of last year sometime. And for those that don't know, Trelli creates innovative consumer electronics to better connect people, hopefully increase communication, happiness, and peace of mind. We are launching our first product this summer. That is basically a simple wireless device that clips onto the outside of a purse or a handbag and visually notifies you when you're receiving an incoming phone call. And the concept behind that was very simple. Females tend to carry their phones in some type of purse or handbag when they're on the go, and subsequently don't hear their phone ring, feel it vibrate, see it light up. And so we decided to come up with a solution for that. Just briefly, we were talking about yesterday, what's happened since we presented. First of all, we presented on September 19th, I believe, last year, which was awesome. And we were in the small labs room, and we were super excited because we set the attendance record that day, which was about 115 people. So you can see, I think they've had 3 or 4 venues since, and they announced the attendance numbers earlier, which are crazy. So that's how awesome this whole program is, and we are proud alums. We talk about 1 Million Cups a lot. One quick story I wanted to share that kind of still blows me away is we went up to Think, Iowa last year, and somebody in, Mike Farmer in KCSV suggested we talk to a guy he knew up there that's running kind of an incubator, accelerator, and thought it'd be a good connection and thought he might be interested in what we were doing. So we stopped by their offices, and they've got a neat thing going on up there as well. And they said, okay, let's sit down, tell us what you're doing. And we got in probably 2 minutes into our pitch, and the guy says, stop. And so we kind of stopped and looked at him. He said, I watched you on live stream on the 1 Million Cups. I know exactly what you're doing. This is great. I love it. And so we weren't expecting that, needless to say, and just once again think it's just goes to show how powerful this platform is. So thank you. What we've been up to since is we hired a few people. We've got a kind of marketing. A couple of people helping us out with marketing. We've got a head of sales that we brought on. We also filed a patent back end of last year, so we are officially patent pending, which is exciting. And as was mentioned, we decided to launch a Kickstarter campaign very beginning of this year, and we are proud to say we successfully got funded and reached our goal. And more importantly, than the financial piece of it was we had 515 people back us, which was really important and helped us validate what we were working on. Thank you. It was kind of the first validation that we weren't crazy and what we were doing, actually, made a difference in people's lives, and that feels good. And frankly, see a lot of faces out in the crowd here that helped us achieve that. And so, we want to make sure and thank you again for the support.
Just a couple other bullet points. As mentioned, we are currently in manufacturing stage over in China and have our first alpha samples a few weeks ago, so they look really good. We're pretty happy with that. We closed a $500,000 seed round earlier this year, so really excited with that first round. The other thing to mention is we plan to be in market this summer, and we are currently in pretty in-depth conversations with channels and distributors to get that out there. So hope to see us in retail here in a few months. Really excited there. And then I think in closing, just want to give a special thanks back to 1 Million Cups and encourage everybody who's interested to come and present. This was our public debut, our launching point of Trelli. I'd actually just resigned the day before. Someone tweeted, who gets a standing ovation from resigning at 1 Million Cups, so that was kind of funny. But it was a great networking, and it continues to be a great networking event for us. And again, encourage you, we had some great conversations right thereafter with Sprint and Hallmark from our presentation. So really, really encourage everybody to do it, and thank you, and thank everybody that's here. That's all we got. Thanks.
So one of the really awesome things about, again, being, or what's kind of grown here in the last year, is seeing the variety of startups that we get. And, obviously we get a lot of tech folks, and that's great, we love them. But what's really awesome is when we have food. That's always makes for great presentations when they bring samples. So our next presenter is a great, not only an amazing food product, but a really cool startup story. She took a blog about vegan food and vegan cooking and parlayed that into an actual product, Roxy's. Moved out to Sebastopol, or had lived in Sebastopol, California, because that's where all that raw and vegan stuff is headquartered. But really had deep roots in Kansas City and wanted to bring her business back. So as she said in her presentation, I really wanted my package to say "Made in Kansas City." And so please welcome Callie England from Roxy's, who is back here in Kansas City.
Hello, as he said, my name is Callie, and I'm the owner and founder of Roxy's.
We presented here at 1 Million Cups in mid-February. It was a week after we actually launched our Kansas City facility, so it was really the first platform where we could introduce ourselves as a now Kansas City brand. Since relaunching our facility and speaking here at 1 Million Cups, we went out to back to California in February to show at Natural Products Expo West. If you're not familiar, Natural Products Expo West is the world's largest natural foods trade show. It has, I believe this year, 2,500 vendors, and they set a record with over 75,000 attendees. You have everyone from Cliff Bar, Odwalla, anything that you see in Whole Foods has a booth at this show. So it was really our first year and our first time showing at this venue. When the response was incredible, people loved the product, but the best part of the show is that at the third day, Roxy's was actually awarded by New Hope, that puts on the trade show, top 6 vegan products for 2013. So, thanks. But it was in that moment where kind of the validation that, as it was said just before me, that I'm not crazy. And it was like, wait a second, we really have something here. But I think more than that, it was so great to be nationally recognized amongst, there were 5 other companies that are coastal companies. I think one's in Toronto, and the other 4 are in California. So it was, we were not only the only Midwest company, but these other companies were multi-million-dollar companies. And so it really, I guess, spoke a lot about the Roxy's brand and what it can be. So since coming back from that trade show, we've kind of readjusted Roxy's a bit. And moving forward, it was the greatest moment to date, that award, but it was also the scariest moment, because I realized in that moment that I had created a brand much larger than myself, and everything that I dreamed about Roxy's, or what I dreamed 2 years ago when I trademarked this name, could really come true. So in the past month, I've been really focused on building a really sound infrastructure, and so instead of just hopping back to our coastal accounts like I thought we'd do in the second quarter, there's been so much attention now that a lot of our smaller distributors that we worked with on the coast are saying, we really don't want to take you back on because we think you're going to go straight to UNFI. And we'd love to go straight to UNFI. So what we're doing is, how do we go straight to UNFI without scaling ourselves right out of business? How do we open those accounts back up and still do this in the most strategic and smart manner? So right now, we're just really looking for, we're going to stay in Kansas City, greater Kansas City area. We keep turning new accounts every day. I think I picked up maybe 5 this week. Our product is selling out on a weekly basis at all of our accounts, so thank you so much for everyone's support on that. And then in the third quarter, we'll reopen our distribution. We're really looking for a CEO, or a CFO right now, equity trade, et cetera. And so that's what we're trying to find and work on as we grow this company to the next level. Our newest partner to the team she's coming on board this month. Her name's Amy Thomasis, and Amy is the ex-vice president of NBC Universal Publicity. She worked for them for 20 years. She's George Clooney's, Russell Crowe's most requested publicist. She has direct ties with the Today Show, the Morning Show, you name it, she's got it. And she currently resides in, I believe, Chappaqua, hopefully I'm not butchering that, New York, right outside of New York City. And so she'll be splitting her time starting the end of this month, part Kansas City and part New York City. So she'll really be that driving force she has the connections to really take the brand to the next level, and she really fits the demographic. So I guess that's kind of a little bit of an update. Thank you so much for everyone here at 1 Million Cups. Since we presented, it was so great to be able in one fell swoop to announce that we are a Kansas City brand, and to really have people come up to us and help us, such as bankers and just people of interest. And we got amazing advisors, someone that really came into our company and immediately said, no, here's how you want to run the financials. And that kind of started the whole talks of how do we do this in a really smart way. And so that's kind of a little bit of an update of Roxy's. And again, thank you so much for the support of the Kansas City accounts right now.
Okay, so I know Cameron mentioned the fact that people literally fight for announcements, and we weren't planning to make any announcement this week, but we have one quick one, and I think it's going to be really exciting. So,
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm going to go ahead and tweet this, so the link will be up here too. But my name's Chris Shaw. I don't know that many people in this room, but I know probably a couple dozen of you. I'm originally from Kansas City. Spent the first 20 years of my life here, born and raised. But for the last 10 years, I've spent kind of been on a wild ride. I've been all over the place. I've lived in Boston. I've spent time in the Valley and Las Vegas and Boulder and many other startup hubs that we compete with, as Cameron said. I don't think we're really competing. I think we're learning from each other, and I think there are a lot of good things that go both ways, right? But I myself am an entrepreneur. I've started a couple of companies. My first company I started at 13 when I was repairing computers out in Raymore, right? But most recently I started a technology company in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We employed about 10 people and did some pretty good things before my wife and I had complications with the birth of our child and realized we wanted to raise our daughter here, home in Kansas City, where we're from. So recently, I was selected to be one of the Google Glass Explorers, and some of the folks I work with at Think Big, we came up with a pretty big idea. I guess that's what they do, right? So we're actually going to fly out to San Francisco when I pick up the glass hardware, and we're going to road trip back through Silicon Valley, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Boulder en route to Kansas City. We're going to talk about all 4 of these startup hubs in addition to Kansas City, of course. And we want to take some of you with us. So we're going to raise some money on Kickstarter, and the documentary and the Kickstarter itself are not live. There will be some announcements later. But if you go to our site, techtrek.co, you can learn more about it, and you'll kind of see what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing some live broadcasts that will actually be with some of the major media outlets, and we think it's going to be pretty interesting. We really want to focus on not only educating everybody else about the cool things that we're doing, but building relationships with those folks along the way, right? There are a lot of Silicon Prairie expats, like I was out in Boston, in many of these communities, and we want to start viewing those people as on loan, right? We want to start getting them back into the fold here, connecting us to people in distribution channels and VCs, the things that we can do to really, just light up. And obviously, people are retweeting this, so that's why my phone keeps buzzing. Appreciate that. Just want to say, if you haven't met me, I'm at Mo Chris Shaw on Twitter. Feel free to hit me up anytime. Since I've been back about 90 days. I think I've had about 70 or 80 cups of coffee outside of 1 million cups with people here in town. I drink more tea, so actually I'll look up Hugo and start doing that route. But anyway, thanks for hearing me out, and I'm really excited about everything going on in Kansas City, and hope to have a really fun experience with the Tech Trek and the Glass documentary, and everybody here, I hope, has something cool to see too. Thanks.
We're really excited to watch his journey. So up next, one of the earliest, I think, presenters, Toby Rush. I think I heard that you have a new slogan. Kill passwords?
Kill passwords, the shortest slogan I think I've ever been able to come up with.
Perfect. Well, I'm really excited. The technology is absolutely phenomenal, and I'd love to hear where you came to this point after 1 million cups. So, Toby Rush.
Great. Before I jump into the update on iVerify, another quick update. A few weeks ago, we said that we're going to try a little intern program for startups. So Kauffman volunteered to kind of be the connector for students wanting to do intern programs and startups looking for students. We had 175 students sign up, which was really cool. So yeah, it's awesome. So if you're a startup and would like to have an intern, marketing, business, technical, that kind of range all over the place, email me at tobyrush@gmail.com. I'll connect you to the right people over at Kauffman. And we'll have a number of social things together during the summer. But yeah, so tobyrush@gmail.com, and I'll get you connected. So that update on iVerify. So I'm Toby Rush, CEO and founder of iVerify. And we are out to kill the password. Okay? We're doing that with the iPrint. Right? And the iPrint is actually, we use this device, the phone in your pocket, and the camera there, to image and then pattern match the blood vessels and the whites of your eye. Right? We can match that more accurately than a fingerprint, do it here, and offer a simple, safe replacement for entering passwords on smartphones. When we came and spoke at 1 million cups, it was last spring. I'm not sure remember what the date was, but we were really early on. So we were trying to figure out, how accurate can we get it? What are the markets? What's the business model? What are the use cases? What's the channel, the go-to-market strategy? And we've made a lot of updates. On the accuracy side, at the time, we were probably 98, 99% accurate. You've got to have 3 nines of accuracy to be relevant in the biometrics world. We're currently at 99.992. accurate. Phenomenal accuracy. We needed better IPs. We had a core patent that we licensed out of UMKC, so we went through the tech transfer process. We have this core patent on the idea of iVein biometrics, kind of doing the iPrint, but we needed more. So since then, we've gotten 2 new patents issued. One is on the features we're using to do the pattern matching. One is on anti-spoofing, what we call liveness. We've got 3 more in the works. So phenomenal progress in getting further patent position and further IP built up around that. On the market side, I could name you 20 different use cases, and when I started, we really weren't sure which ones were going to be relevant, which ones were going to take off. Since then, we got a lot more clarity. There are actually 20, 30, 40 different use cases, but the highest paying in the nearest term are those for employees trying to access corporate resources. So the BYOD is what it's often called. You bring your own device. So if you're in the enterprise, financial services, healthcare, government, and you're an employee, you're trying to go in to get onto the VPN, you're trying to access these other systems, but to do so is a security nightmare. So looking at selling into those companies, solving specifically that problem, going through the channel of a group called Mobile Device Management. So the MDMs spend all their time securing these devices and the data and the transactions, and the way we pitch ourselves is we're a new lock on the front door. Right? The thing that the consumers touch and see and feel every day, we can make that experience far simpler and far more secure for major enterprises, healthcare institutions, financial services, and the government. A number of those have signed up for pilots, some of the biggest banks in the world, a number of large enterprises, a number of government entities. We're kicking off pilots in May and June, so that's very, very exciting as well. We also had, in the life of a startup, it's often the twists and turns and the roller coaster that you're on. So mid-summer, Apple went out and bought a fingerprint sensor company. Right, so fingerprint is kind of an alternative to what we're doing. We're like, holy shit, is that good? Is that bad? What does that mean? And it turns out it's really good. They validated a lot of things, that passwords aren't sufficient. Things like face recognition and voice recognition aren't sufficient. And they went out and spent $350 million to go buy this fingerprint sensor to integrate. And in the following 60 days, I had every Android manufacturer in the world calling in saying, so what are you guys doing? And how does that work? We've had conversations. I've had guys in China, got my teams in Korea. We've been up visiting with BlackBerry, with Microsoft, with everybody's wanting to say, hey, how does this work? What does that look like? So really kind of a fun and dynamic ride that we've been on that. So the OEMs, the carriers as well, so being able to offer value-added services through the telco carriers. So a lot of different places that we can push and move this. So all that sounds really cool, right? So it's fun, it's crazy. So on March 10th, I was almost out of cash, right? 3 weeks ago. So we were raising money, had 4 different VCs that we had great conversations with. In a week's period of time, had 4 no's. And I'm like, oh, crap. Right? So I'm freaking out. I'm stressed. That's the ride that we're on. Right? So it's easy to hear all the fun things, but the reality is it is a crazy, wild roller coaster. So, and every reason, some love the idea, some hated the idea, some said you can't make it, some said you can. So you hear all these different things. The reality is, okay, you get in the zone. What are my options? What am I going to do? So in about 2 weeks' time, actually it was like a day or 2 time, put a new plan together, and then within 2 weeks we were oversubscribed. Right? So we had more money than we're actually asking for, and we're having to tell people no. So just the rise and the fall and the ride. That's what you got to love, right? If you're a startup, if you're in the entrepreneurial world, they're scary, but they're not things to avoid. You expect them, you guide through them, and you have fun with it. So we've got a bunch of pilots starting in May and June. We're excited. We're getting some great response from the folks that we're working with. The team is phenomenal. We've got an amazing team. It's deeper math and deeper science than I ever thought I would ever get into. When working with machine vision and image processing, it'd be pretty crazy. It's fun to work on something not just with cool people, but the use cases that have come out. I mean, literally, this matters to orphans in Africa. It matters to the unbankable in India. It matters to refugee management in the Middle East. It matters to anybody, New York bankers. It matters to you guys sitting in this room. When you want to live life digitally, but simply and safely, that's where we come into play. So we're excited. Been great to be a part of the 1 Million Cups. We've really enjoyed coming here and just seeing the community continue to grow and kind of reinvest in itself and the momentum that we've got. So hopefully we'll continue to be a part of that and contribute as an entrepreneur as well as just as a contributor.
Thanks a lot, Toby. All right, iVerify is one of the first presentations that I was aware of in Kansas City, and I remember watching that, and coming from an engineering background, it just really piqued my interest. So great to see what's going on now with that. So up next is Tim Sylvester with Integrated Roadways, and another engineering-based product that really piqued my interest. So he first presented last April, right? So one of the first presenters as well, and he's done a lot here in the community and a lot of interactions, and actually has a few pieces of pavement in place in Kansas City. I'll let him explain that a little bit more. So there's a good chance you've actually driven on this product and actually interacted with it. But we're really excited to have him back, and I know a lot has been going on, so we'll hand it over.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. So I can't believe it's been a year. You know, actually for me, it is exactly 1 year next week. So whenever somebody first said that earlier, I was like, you know, sometimes it feels like just a couple of weeks ago that I was here. And sometimes it feels like it was years ago, you know, so it's really hard to contextualize everything that's happened in the last year. It's been amazing. And especially the growth that 1 Million Cups has seen. Whenever I was here the first time, I don't think we could have filled these first 2 rows, you know, and now we've got this entire room full of people. It's amazing. And whenever I saw the video of the other cities, I just have to think, you know, do they have as much fun as we do? It's just so much fun. And it's really been an amazing ride since we were here last. You know, I was kind of here pitching an idea, and we were, you know, moving towards implementation, but we hadn't actually built anything. And so a couple of months after we were here, Kansas DOT decided to put a couple of our products in Interstate 35. I mean, come on, I-35, right, for our very first products. Now, I don't think they actually knew that it was our very first products, but, you know, it worked out. So since then, we have 2 other jobs that we're actively working on right now. One of them out in Olathe, demonstrating our continuous pavement method, and then one of them at UMKC for J.E. Dunn, where we're actually doing a long-term comparison for 4 different types of pavement. And you know, I was at Invest Midwest last week, and somebody came up to me afterwards and said, I've never seen somebody so excited about concrete. And you know, it's not really the material, it's the potential that it brings. And something that I have never really had much of a chance to talk about is I invented this company for Kansas City. The entire inspiration for doing modular pavement was to fix the problems that we have with Kansas City's infrastructure. So, you know, this is very much a local company. Even though we intend to be national, it was created to solve a local problem. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but our roads need a little bit of TLC. And without going too far off track here, that's because the entire funding model has completely broken down for infrastructure over the last 20 years or so. And you know, I could say that we've constantly pivoted in the last year, but we haven't really, because you don't have to pivot if you never really plant yourself. If you stay agile and responsive to what your customers are looking for, what your investors need, what the market wants, you know, it's never really that hard to change what you're doing. So since then, we have evolved from, yeah, we build these great chunks of roadway in the factory, to where we provide pavement as a service. So this is kind of adapting a lot of internet business models to a very old school industry. And people have been very receptive to this, surprisingly receptive to this. Of course, the fact that the funding model is broken and we're here to fix it probably has a lot to do with that, but you know, I'll take it. So yeah, it's really been an amazing ride. I mean, since I was up here for the first time, we've been featured in the Wall Street Journal, in the KC Business Magazine, in Pitch Weekly, and actually, I don't know if you saw it, but we got front page on the KC Star on Easter Sunday, which was 4 days before I went into Invest Midwest to pitch, you know, try to raise some cash. So it certainly helps whenever you're going into a pitch like that, if somebody already knows what you do. Like they were telling us earlier with Trelli. So the publicity that you can garner from, you know, coming to 1 Million Cups, not only presenting, but just being in the audience, it's massive what it can do for you. And a lot of times people will ask me, you know, what's the key? What is the thing that makes you successful? And really, most of success is just showing up. 1 Million Cups would not exist if you guys didn't all show up. None of these startups would exist if their founders didn't show up and put in the hours. So, thank you so much for coming and for being a part of this, for constantly pushing us and asking us hard questions and offering us connections, and whatever you can do, anything, no matter how big or how small, it's enough. Just show up, talk to people, and do what you can. So thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it very much.
So our next presenter, where is our next presenter? Jessie. There she is. So our next presenter's company, Clink Mobile, had just turned 1 year old when she presented last October. And in her presentation, she had, I think, just had opened up trading to Afghanistan and Mexico at that time. Her only complaint about being a startup in Kansas City for her was because we don't have an international airport, so she always has to fly through somewhere else when she's jumping throughout the globe, visiting her clients and making new connections. So please do welcome from Clink Mobile, Jessie Bishop.
Hello, good morning. So, when I started Clink Mobile, and actually the first time that I presented to 1 Million Cups community, I would look out the audience and I didn't recognize a ton of faces because most of the time that I was building Clink from the beginning, I was everywhere but here, right? So I was building a Kansas City startup, but from every other place in the world. So I had really hard time integrating when I came back and started to build the team here and trying to make friends and find those people that would lift you up when things were down. And I can look at this audience right now and I recognize several faces. So thank you. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you 1 Million Cups and Nate and everybody that's an entrepreneur and Kauffman Foundation for helping us, Clink, and the community get to where we need to be. So Clink Mobile, for those of you that don't know, is actually, we are revolutionizing the way that you transfer money internationally. And we're making it basically happen in real time from your mobile device. And it goes directly to the recipients overseas in some of the worst situations in the world. It goes directly to their mobile phone, and they no longer have to travel through very dangerous places. They now have access to banking via their mobile device, and they can actually convert it from the physical into the virtual and back into the physical. So we are making history. And I'll keep it really short, but we have a few updates. We actually have a ton of updates, but the most important ones are, first, we have a new logo. So, yes, finally. Oh my goodness. When you're a startup, you have to do with what you can get. We also have an amazing team. I am no longer the only person here in Kansas City, which is phenomenal. And I actually have a team member in the room today, which is also phenomenal. And we have 4 people here. We're moving more. We moved our first person. And so we are bringing people not only from other parts, like the coasts, and bringing them to Kansas City, but we're bringing them from other countries. So Kansas City, we are up and coming. What else? Oh my goodness. We launched a new site last night. So we did not do a lot of sleeping. We were, trying to get away from the cybersecurity hackers of the world. But everything is phenomenal because we have the best CTO in the world, and we had to search for him in Russia and Mexico and everywhere, but we found him. And he is also moving to Kansas City. And we filed our patent. It's a provisional patent, but it's filed, so that is also really, really great for us because this is a space that's heating up really quickly. And I think last but not least, we are kicking ass. So, thank you.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so up next, presented back last in, I think, October was when. Was it October? Yeah, I don't know that for sure. Brian Gruber from Lucky Orange brought this awesome presentation, and I remember being there in their room just lit up with questions about how his technology could start to be integrated in, and I know he's still getting mic'd up. And yeah, I'll just, so how's everybody doing? Good. Oh, and I know we may have said this, and I hope everybody saw the social media that we're running long today because we're so excited about what's happening here. So let's go ahead and have him up, Brian Gruber, and I should know the partner's name.
You'll know very soon.
That's perfect.
Hi. Is this working? Great. Okay. I'm going to do something that's a little harder for me, and maybe it's more meaningful. And I'm kind of going to talk about Lucky Orange in the first person, as opposed to what I guess is more common, which is to talk about my company. But I started this company in my basement, and I just wanted to find some way to get enough revenue to support my family and my son, and to be able to see him more often than I, would have been able to at a bigger corporate job. So I kind of went on a mission to try 10 ideas, and maybe one of them would stick, and this was one of them that stuck. There are plenty of failures that I'm happy to talk about if anybody ever wants to. So Lucky Orange is a tool that I built because I was curious about what was going on a lot of my websites that I was working on. And I wanted to know who was on it and what were they doing and how can I talk to them and figure out what's wrong with it. And instead of just guessing at what's wrong with what I built, let me talk to who's using it and really find out what's wrong with it. So it offers a lot of things like real-time recordings of visitors using your website, chat with them, polling, heat maps, a whole bunch of neat things. Where I've come from the beginning till today, it's very hard for me to separate Lucky Orange from myself. And I think a lot of startup companies probably go through a similar thing where you're the company and you're struggling and you want people to think that you're bigger than you are. And you don't want them to see your failures, and you don't want them to see your struggles. And that's tough. But that is real, and that exists. And we struggle with our companies. And I struggled a lot with Lucky Orange. And I worked really hard on it. And after 1 Million Cups, it helped me to start thinking about things in terms of how can I separate myself from the company in order to take the burden off my shoulders. How can I get back to doing what I really wanted to do, which is spend more time with my family and do things that I love to do. So I started thinking about it more in that terms and reading up on designing a business that way. And since then, I have hired another employee, and Danny Weitzman, which today we'll call you VP of Sales and Business Development. And so we have doubled our employee status since 1 Million Cups. Thank you. Been featured in Huffington Post, recently Social Media Examiner, where we're rated the #1 tool, I guess, for business blogs or whatever you want to call it, and a lot of tremendous growth in terms of customers and revenue. And I'd like to invite Danny to talk about some of the things that we're looking forward to doing in the future.
How's it going, everyone? So since last year's 1 Million Cup speech, we've had a lot of growth in terms of customer acquisition, the way our business has developed, our product has developed. We were sitting in a co-working environment just a few months back and really brainstorming, having a great brainstorm session as far as where did we want to take the product, what features do our customers love, just really vibing, and it was going well. And then our landlord came to us and they said, don't want to interrupt, but you guys are going to be evicted at the end of the month. Which was great because now we've actually moved into our own office, and it was really exciting for us because we were able to go out and furnish our office, and we went on Craigslist and bought up a bunch of desks, and we kind of set up our office the way we always envisioned your first own office would look like, with mini fridges and offices and chairs and desks, and we looked at it, we were like almost proud parents, and then we thought, we have too many desks. There's just two of us, and there's no room for all of the toys we want to put in our office, our Papa Shop machines, and everything we wanted to bring in. So sold those desks, and slimmed back down to put the focus back on what we want to do, which was develop this product. So when we look at our product, Brian mentioned has chat and polling and heat maps, and it's just a suite of tools for websites. And what we wanted to do is really put the focus back on our users. Let our users tell us what they like about the product. So those of you who are familiar with Lucky Orange, great, but those of you who are not, we want to encourage you to go to the Lucky Orange website, play around with the tool. It's something you can put on your website for free, no credit card, anything like that. And what we love to hear is positive feedback, because it's good for our egos and we love to hear it. But more importantly, we want to hear negative feedback, because that's good for our business. We want to know your struggles of using the tools. We want to know other tools that you've used, things you like about those tools that Lucky Orange doesn't have. Because when we look at our product development, we could enter the market and say we have a great product, and how do we sell it? Or do we say, how do we keep enhancing our product? What allows us to partner with some larger companies, agencies, brand marketing companies? We've had a lot of good penetrations with web development companies who then take our findings and work with us closely as partnerships and take those into client pitches. The ability to show somebody heat maps of why their designs work, or visitor recordings that say, hey, we designed this website for you, and here's your actual visitors using the website, is really phenomenal. So that's the direction we're going. Since last year's 1 million cups, about that time we're averaging about 200 new accounts a month. As of last month, we're up to 600 new accounts a month, and that continues to grow. So really big thanks to everybody. Thanks to 1 Million Cups, of course, for allowing us to come up here and promote. But it's been exciting to develop and enhance our product every single month. And we really look forward to the next year where really have the opportunity to expand and continue to develop.
Amen. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, so last up, we've got Jeb Ori with Phone to Action. He's not actually able to make it today, so we've got a video that should be queuing up here. But thank you guys so much for coming out and supporting the community, and for staying an extra half an hour as we get through all of these great companies and kind of revisiting the last year. But as soon as we get that video up and going, we'll get rolling.
Hey, 1 Million Cups. It's Jeb Ori from Phone to Action. Want to give you a big thanks for inviting me to participate today in this 1-year anniversary of this amazing organization. Really thrilled to be a part of this. And I wanted to give you guys a quick update over video, letting you know what we've been up to over the last few months. I'm actually in the plane right now flying to DC, so I can't be there in person. But since we pitched, we've had a great few months. Now, to jog your memory, Phone to Action is a mobile advocacy platform. We help organizations acquire and engage new supporters. And we do things like making it really easy to email elected officials, for example. We're adding clients every day, and we hit $75,000 in revenue during the first quarter. But most importantly, our clients are really happy with the services that we're offering, because we're creating new efficiencies in how they operate, and we're allowing them to amplify the money that they're spending to be able to affect and impact change. We're also part of the Show Me Bus. So we went down to South by Southwest with about 45 crazy entrepreneurs just about a month ago. Many of them are probably in this room right now. So hey guys, how's it going? It was a great opportunity to get to know other people and to get to see how cohesive the community was. We were really proud to be a part of it. We were a competitor in the South by Southwest Interactive Accelerator Finals in the News Technologies competition. We actually ended up winning the competition, which brought us a $4,000 check, which is great, and a lot of publicity. But most importantly, it let people know outside of Missouri and outside of Kansas City that there's some really cool things going on. And we are just really proud to be a part of that. We also had an amazing experience where we got to brief Senator Warner and Senator Moran on phone to action. And they actually did a call to action asking people to text jobs to 52886, which is what activates our mobile applications. So they actually did this call to action during a panel that they were hosting, and it got some great response, and it was a great opportunity to really see public policy in action. Just want to close by saying we are looking to expand our team. So if you are a rock star PHP developer, or if you know one, contact us. Hit me on Twitter at Jebory, Jebory, or send me an email at jeb@phonetoaction.com. I'd love to connect with you. Once again, just want to say thanks a lot, 1 Million Cups. We're thrilled to be a part of this, and we look forward to many, many more great opportunities to get the community together at 1 Million Cups and other events in Kansas.
All right, we're coming to a close here, but I want to thank you all so much for being here. And before we close up and party, I want to introduce my boss, the Vice President of Entrepreneurship here at the foundation. Tom Rue is probably, I would consider, my closest role model. He's an amazing individual. He commutes here from Cleveland every single week. He's just extremely committed to the foundation's, vision of democratizing entrepreneurship and going all around the world to figure out what we can do to make an impact. Here to give you kind of an update of where we're going, not only from the entrepreneurship perspective, but just at our greater portfolio. Welcome, Tom Rue. He'll close us out.
Somebody tweeted, late for class but worth it. That's the kind of student you would want in your class, somebody that has enough sense to understand when they're actually extracting some value organically from a community. I'm a simple man of average intelligence, but one skill I do have is I can identify talent. And when I look at my entire team, I know I've been very, very lucky to assemble the talent that I have there, from Nate and Cameron, all the way on down to Jennifer, Rachel, Nancy, Wendy, Amanda. I'm going through the office right now to make sure I get everybody. Prentice, Jay, Rob, Diana Kander, a whole group of people, and to say nothing of the rest of the staff here at Kauffman. There's nothing that we do that doesn't impact the entire foundation. And for the folks in communications, research, who's studying all the things that we're doing with this and other programs, to the folks in finance, HR even, it's a community effort. Speaking of community, a couple weeks ago at Big Kansas City, I got to share with people in the audience, and I said something that was kind of an epiphany then, and I've been able to refine it more now. I just caught a red eye back from Seattle, where there was big community gatherings going on around one of our newest curriculum programs called the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program. And what I said at Big KC, I got to reaffirm in Seattle, and I'm going to say it here. I think community is becoming a form of currency in our economy. And here's what I mean by that. Think about everybody, the alumni that just came through and presented. Think about what they said about the impact this community has had on the growth trajectory of their companies. Think about how many of them were pitching job opportunities. How many of them raised follow-on funding. Those are concrete, material, economic impact events that cascade from a community. So in my capacity at the foundation, I have literally traveled the world. And I sit in kind of like town hall meetings where people come together and they ask, geez, what can we do? And what's the silver bullet? And what's the government policy? And what's this and what's that? And really the experience that 1 Million Cups has afforded this simple person of average intelligence, I mean, you don't have to be one of the brilliant researchers we have in our research group to understand this. there's value, there's currency, there's impact that comes out of this activity. We have been lucky enough to serve as your facilitator, your convener, so to speak. But the value of the community is only as good as the people participating in it. The value is only as good as the goodwill that comes from it and cascades from it. And boy, have we demonstrated goodwill here. Yeah, that's right, Stephanie. Let's go for that one. Because I got to tell you, based upon the years I've been in this space, I think it's going to, over time, demonstrate greater impact that's more relevant and more timely than anything else that's going to come from a government agency. We are the people we're waiting for. We are the people that are helping ourselves. So where we're going forward with this, we're going to make this a bigger impact. There's been talk about getting it into 20 cities. I can tell you the interest has been global from this. We have cities queuing up and waiting to get on board, and we're going to do that. We're going to do it smart. And then at some point, we're going to start, as we already are, by networking the networks. So if you think about the map that Nate had up earlier, here's the U.S., and here are the spots where we're at, and you see little concentric circles of influence going out. Well, as we start getting density, those concentric circles are going to start overlapping. And then we're really going to start seeing scale. And that's a big motivation for why we're doing this. We want to be able to demonstrate scale. We want to be able to demonstrate the value of this building community. And you're a big part of it. You're going to be the pioneers. When history is written, it started here in Kansas City, and those of you who are in the early adoption stage can feel good that you were a big part of that. So I want to thank you and close by thanking you for your support of this. I want to just shout out how proud I am of the Kansas City community, my home, my second home. It really is something special, and I say that from a standpoint of somebody who has the chance to look around the world and see where it's happening. It's crazy when you're in Brazil and people are coming up to you saying, "What's going on in Kansas City?" Yeah, damn Skippy. That doesn't happen accidentally, and the world is paying attention. Seattle's a pretty cool city, right, with a pretty decent entrepreneurial ecosystem. Everybody wanted to know, how do we get that 1 million cups in here? How did you do that Kansas City Startup Village? That's what it's all about. You've been a part of it. That's why we're doing it. Big shout out to the team that's helped us do it, and just stay tuned for great things to come of it. Thank you all, and thanks for being patient and staying late.